Picture this: 1,000 tiny decisions piling up like bricks, each one placed with precision until you've built a life so solid, so unyielding, you can't imagine it any other way. That's where I am right now, at 34, standing in the middle of a world I've constructed with my own hands. My name is Celeste, and if you looked at me from the outside, you'd see a woman who's got it all together. A stable marriage, a demanding career, a rhythm to my days that ticks like a well-oiled clock. But let me pull back the curtain just a little. Let you see the edges of the frame I've been living in. I've been married to Jason for 8 years now. He's the kind of man who anchors you, steady as a rock, with a mind that's always crunching numbers. He works in finance, spends his evenings hunched over spreadsheets, his brow furrowed in concentration while I'm across the room, drowning in legal briefs. We're a pair of parallel lines, moving forward together but rarely intersecting in the chaos of our schedules. He's dependable, though, in a way that's both comforting and, if I'm honest, a little predictable. I can count on him to have coffee ready in the morning, to leave a note on the fridge if he's working late. But sometimes, I catch myself wondering if there's more to us than this quiet, functional partnership. My days, though, they're consumed by the law firm where I've carved out my place. It's a high-powered machine, a place of cold, gray walls that seem to absorb any trace of warmth. The glass doors reflect every move I make, like I'm constantly under a microscope, watched by invisible eyes. Towering stacks of papers line my desk, each one a silent taunt, a reminder of the endless hours I pour into this place. The air hangs heavy with silence, broken only by the sharp clack of a keyboard or the low murmur of a conversation behind closed doors. There's a tension here, a constant undercurrent of stress that hums beneath the surface. It's in the way shoulders hunch, the way eyes dart to the clock, the unspoken expectations that weigh on us all. You can feel it, like static before a storm, and it's become as familiar to me as my own heartbeat. I'm not alone in this grind, though. I've got Noah and Ethan, my 2 closest colleagues, who've been with me through the worst of it. Grueling cases that stretch into the early hours, late-night strategy sessions fueled by stale coffee and sheer determination. Noah's the one who lights up a room without even trying. He's got this charisma, a sharp wit that cuts through the monotony, and piercing blue eyes that seem to see straight through to your core. He's the one who can make me laugh even when I'm buried under deadlines, the one who knows just what to say to pull me out of a spiral. Then there's Ethan, quieter, more intense, with a presence that fills the space around him without a word. His dark eyes hold a kind of depth that makes you feel like he's always thinking 3 steps ahead, calculating every move. There's a steadiness to him, a quiet strength that I've come to rely on more than I'd like to admit. Together, the 3 of us form this unspoken alliance, a trio navigating the battlefield of the firm, each of us carrying our own weight, but somehow lighter for having the others nearby. Every morning, I'm the first one in, slipping through those glass doors before the city fully wakes. The office is eerily quiet at that hour, the fluorescent lights flickering to life with a low buzz that grates on my nerves. I settle at my desk, the chipped mug of bitter coffee in my hand, the steam curling up as I take that first scalding sip. It's a ritual, a way to ground myself before the chaos begins. I dive into the case files, my fingers flipping through pages, highlighters, and sticky notes at the ready. I've got this system, color-coded, precise, a little obsessive if I'm honest, but it keeps me sane when the workload feels like it's drowning me. The hum of the lights overhead, the scratch of my pen, the faint smell of ink and paper, it's all so familiar. Yet there's a weariness that's started to creep in, settling into my bones. It's not long before Noah strolls in, his tie slightly askew, a grin already playing on his lips. He leans against my desk, peering over my shoulder at the rainbow of notes scattered across my workspace. "Celeste, you're gonna give yourself a headache with all this color coding," he teases, his voice warm with amusement. I roll my eyes, but I can't help the smile tugging at my mouth. He reaches for a pen from my desk to jot something down, and as he hands it back, his fingers brush against mine. It's fleeting, barely a moment, but the contact lingers, a subtle warmth that I feel long after he's moved away. I catch myself staring at the pen, my mind stumbling over why that small touch feels like it carries so much weight. I shake it off, focusing on the file in front of me, but the air feels just a little heavier now. Then there's Ethan, who always seems to find a reason to stop by my desk. Today, it's a tricky clause in a contract, one he's been wrestling with for hours. He stands close, closer than necessary, his voice low and deliberate as he asks for my take on it. "What do you think, Celeste?" "Am I missing something here?" he murmurs, but his eyes aren't on the paper in his hand. They're on me, steady and unblinking. I feel the heat rising to my cheeks, my pulse quickening under that gaze, and I fumble for words, pointing out a loophole I noticed earlier. He nods. But there's a flicker of something in, "Let me tell you about the week that changed everything." It was one of those stretches at the firm where time seemed to collapse under the weight of a looming deadline, a high-stakes case that could make or break our reputations. Every waking hour was consumed by it, the pressure building like a storm ready to break. The three of us, Noah, Ethan, and I, knew we had no choice but to push through, to give it everything we had. So we made a pact to stay late, to burn the midnight oil until our strategy was airtight. I didn't realize then just how much that decision would unravel me. That first night, stepping into the office after hours, felt like entering a different world. The usual chaos of ringing phones and hurried footsteps was gone, replaced by a silence so thick it pressed against my ears. The only sound was the faint hum of the air conditioning, a constant drone that seemed to echo in the empty space. Most of the lights were off, save for the single desk lamp we'd dragged over to our shared workspace. Its dim glow spilled across the table, casting long, jagged shadows that stretched across the room. The glass doors, usually a mirror to the bustle of the day, now reflected nothing but darkness and the faint outline of our figures, hunched over piles of documents. It was eerie, almost suffocating, like the office itself was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. We worked in near silence at first, our voices low, as if speaking too loudly might shatter the fragile stillness. Papers rustled as we passed them back and forth, pens scratched furiously against notepads, and every so often, one of us would let out a frustrated sigh. The tension was palpable, not just from the case, but from something else, something unspoken that hung in the air between us. I could feel it in the way we moved, our bodies closer than necessary as we leaned over the same stack of files. Noah reached across me to point out a discrepancy in a witness statement, his hand brushing my shoulder as he did. The touch was light, almost accidental, but it sent a jolt through me, my skin prickling where his fingers had been. I glanced at him, and he caught my eye for just a second. A flicker of something unreadable in his expression before he looked away. Then there was Ethan, sitting to my left, his presence as steady and intense as ever. As we debated a key piece of evidence, his knee pressed against mine under the desk, a subtle pressure that felt anything but casual. I froze for a moment, my breath catching. But I didn't pull away. Neither did he. It was as if we were both testing some invisible boundary, waiting to see who would break first. My heart was pounding now, not just from the stress of the case, but from this charged undercurrent I could no longer ignore. I tried to focus on the words in front of me, the legal jargon blurring as my mind raced, but the air around us felt electric, heavy with something I didn't dare name. Hours passed, or maybe it was minutes. Time had lost all meaning in that dimly lit bubble. My eyes burned from staring at fine print. My shoulders ached from hunching over the desk. But I couldn't step away. None of us could. We were too far in, not just with the work, but with whatever this was becoming. And then, it happened. Ethan set down his pen, the small clink against the desk sounding louder than it should have in the quiet. He turned to me, his dark eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that made my chest tighten. "What if this isn't just about work?" he said, his voice low, deliberate, each word hanging in the air like a challenge. I blinked, my mind scrambling to process what he meant, even though some part of me already knew. Before I could respond, Noah leaned in, his tone softer but just as loaded. "We don't have to just share cases, Celeste," he murmured, his blue eyes searching mine, a suggestive edge to his words that sent a shiver down my spine. My heart was racing now, a wild, erratic beat that I could feel in my throat. I looked between them, caught in a moment that felt like it could tip either way, a precipice I wasn't sure I wanted to step back from. The desk lamp's glow seemed to shrink the world down to just us, its warm, intimate haze draping over the desk like a veil, softening the harsh edges of the office around us. The rest of the room melted into shadow, leaving only this small circle of light where every emotion, every unspoken thought, felt magnified. My chest tightened as I sat there, the air thick with a tension that wasn't just about the case anymore. It was about us, about lines we'd been towing for far too long, and I could feel the weight of it pressing down on me, heavy and inescapable. My mind was a storm. Thoughts crashing into each other with no clear direction. Jason's face flickered in my head, his steady, reassuring smile, the way he'd kiss my forehead before heading out the door each morning. I could almost feel the weight of my wedding ring on my finger, a small, cold reminder of the life I'd built, the promises I'd made. 8 years of stability, of routine, of a partnership that felt safe, even if it sometimes felt hollow. I thought about our quiet evenings, the way we'd sit across from each other at the dinner table, more like roommates than lovers some nights. But those thoughts, as grounding as they were meant to be, couldn't hold their own against the heat building in this room. They were drowned out by the nearness of Noah, by the way his breath brushed against my neck as he shifted closer, his presence a quiet storm of its own. And Ethan, God, Ethan, his hand rested on my waist now, firm and deliberate, an anchor that felt both dangerous and inevitable. My skin burned under his touch, a heat that spread through me like wildfire, and I couldn't pretend I didn't notice it, couldn't pretend I didn't want it. My body was betraying me, leaning into their closeness before my mind could catch up. I felt myself tilt toward Noah, my shoulder brushing his as a shiver ran down my spine. My breath hitched, a small, involuntary sound that seemed to echo in the silence of the office. Ethan's grip tightened just slightly, his fingers pressing into my side with a possessiveness that made my pulse race even faster. I should have pulled away, should have said something to break the spell, but I didn't. I couldn't. My hands rested on the desk, fingertips pressing into the cool, smooth wood, a stark contrast to the warmth of their hands, their nearness. The texture under my touch grounded me for a fleeting second, the grain of the wood rough against my skin, but it wasn't enough to pull me out of this haze. It only made me more aware of every sensation, every shift in the air between us. The silence in the office was deafening now, amplifying every tiny sound. Our shallow breaths mingled, uneven and quick, a rhythm that felt like it was building to something unstoppable. The rustle of fabric as Noah moved even closer, his sleeve brushing against my arm, sent a jolt through me. The desk creaked softly under our combined weight as we leaned in, the sound sharp and intrusive in the stillness, a reminder of just how close we'd gotten. I could hear my own heartbeat, loud and insistent in my ears, drowning out the faint hum of the air conditioning that had been the only noise before this. Every sense was heightened, every moment stretched out like it could last forever, or snap in an instant. I let my gaze drift between them, Noah's piercing blue eyes holding a question I wasn't sure I could answer, Ethan's darker stare burning with an intensity that made my stomach twist. I knew I should stop this, should stand up and walk away. But there was a part of me, a part I'd buried under years of responsibility and restraint, that had wanted this for longer than I could admit. Maybe it started with those fleeting touches, the lingering looks during late-night work sessions, or maybe it was always there, simmering beneath the surface of our friendship, our alliance. The forbidden nature of it, the sheer wrongness of what I was feeling, only made it more intoxicating. It was a pull I couldn't resist, a current dragging me under before I could even think to swim against it. There, under the dim glow of that solitary desk lamp, where contracts and case files usually lay in neat, orderly stacks, I found myself instead, caught in a space between Noah and Ethan, the air around us thick with a heat that had nothing to do with the stale office air. My heart thundered in my chest, a wild drumbeat that seemed to echo off the glass walls, as if the building itself could feel the shift, the transgression unfolding within its cold, unfeeling structure. Their movements were not a clash, not a competition for dominance, but a seamless dance, a synchronized rhythm that spoke of an unspoken understanding between them. Noah's hand traced a slow, deliberate path along my arm, his touch light yet searing, leaving a trail of fire in its wake. Ethan, on the other hand, was a grounding force, his fingers firm against my back, steady and unyielding, as if he could hold the world still just for this moment. Every brush, every press was calculated, overwhelming in its precision, as if they knew exactly how to unravel me, how to strip away the layers of restraint I'd built up over years. My skin prickled under their attention, every nerve alight, every breath a struggle to keep some semblance of control. But control was a distant memory now, slipping through my fingers like sand. The office, that sterile professional space I'd spent countless hours in, transformed before my eyes into something surreal, something raw and untamed. The desk, usually a barrier of paperwork and responsibility, became a stage for something deeply personal, a canvas for desires I hadn't dared to name until now. The harsh fluorescent lights were gone, replaced by the intimate amber glow of the lamp, casting soft shadows that danced across the walls, turning the familiar into the forbidden. The faint scent of ink and old coffee lingered, mixing with the sharper, more primal notes of our closeness, a heady combination that made my head spin. The silence of the empty office wrapped around us like a cocoon, broken only by the ragged cadence of our breaths, each one a confession, a surrender to the moment. In that suspended slice of time, I felt something shift inside me, something profound and terrifying. I belonged only to myself, not to Jason, not to the life I'd so carefully constructed, not to anyone but the woman I was right here, right now. It was a reclamation, a rediscovery of a part of me I didn't even know I'd lost, buried under years of duty and routine. There was a power in it, a fierce, untamed exhilaration that coursed through me, lighting me up from the inside. But with it came a shadow, a creeping guilt that whispered in the back of my mind, reminding me of the vows I'd made, the trust I was shattering. My mind tugged at me, urging me to pull back, to step away from the edge, but my body refused to listen. Caught in the tide of sensation, the magnetic pull of their nearness, I was a storm of contradictions, torn between the rush of freedom and the weight of betrayal. each emotion battling for dominance as I let myself be carried away. Time seemed to dissolve, minutes stretching into eternities, until the intensity began to ebb and the world slowly started to creep back in. The heat faded into a lingering warmth, the silence growing heavier, more oppressive, as reality settled over us like a cold fog. I found myself sitting on the edge of the desk, my fingers trembling slightly as I adjusted my clothes, smoothing out wrinkles that felt like evidence, like marks of what had just transpired. The lamp's glow, once a warm, inviting veil, now felt like a spotlight, harsh and accusing, illuminating my shame in stark relief. I could still feel the ghost of their touches, the memory of their closeness etched into my skin, but now it was tinged with a bitter aftertaste. A realization of the line I'd crossed, the consequences I couldn't yet fathom. My eyes fell to the scattered papers on the desk, the remnants of our work now a chaotic mess, mirroring the turmoil inside me. Each sheet seemed to stare back, the morning after feels like stepping into a dream I can't wake up from. I'm back at the office before the sun has even fully risen, the city outside still cloaked in a gray haze. My hands are shaking as I push through those familiar glass doors, the same ones that reflected our shadows just hours ago. The silence is different now, not charged with tension, but heavy with aftermath, like the air itself knows what happened here. I move quickly to my desk, my fingers fumbling as I straighten the papers that still lay scattered from last night. I'm trying to erase it, to wipe away any trace of what transpired under that dim lamplight, but every movement feels futile. The desk looks the same, but it's not. It's a silent witness to my unraveling, and I can't shake the feeling that it's judging me. I catch my reflection in the glass doors as I pass by, and I barely recognize the woman staring back. My eyes are hollow, shadowed by a sleepless night, my face pale and drawn. There's something else there too, though. A flicker of something wild, something I unleashed in the heat of the moment. I turn away quickly, unable to hold my own gaze for long. The office feels tainted now, every corner holding a memory I can't escape. The cold gray walls seem to close in tighter than ever, and the hum of the fluorescent lights grates on my nerves more than usual. This place, once just a backdrop to my grind, has become a battlefield of my own making, a space where I shattered something I'm not sure I can rebuild. I'm still trying to steady my breathing when my phone buzzes on the desk, the sound sharp and jarring in the quiet. My heart lurches as I pick it up, seeing Jason's name on the screen. The text is short, but it cuts through me like a knife. You've changed. But are you still mine? My stomach drops, a cold wave of dread washing over me. His words are heavy with a quiet accusation, as if he can sense the shift in me even from miles away. I read them over and over, each time feeling the weight of them sink deeper. I don't know how he knows, or if he even does. Maybe it's just my guilt projecting itself onto his message. But the question lingers, sharp and piercing, demanding an answer I'm not ready to give. I set the phone down, my hands still trembling, and stare at the blank wall in front of me. I don't regret what happened last night. Not entirely. There was a freedom in it, a raw, unfiltered moment where I reclaimed a piece of myself I'd buried under years of routine and expectation. For the first time in so long, I felt alive, like I was more than just a cog in the machine of my life. But that freedom came at a cost, one I can't ignore no matter how much I try. There's a fracture in my marriage now, a crack that's been there for a while, but widened into a chasm last night. Jason and I, we've been drifting, living parallel lives. But this is something else. This is a betrayal, a choice I made that I can't take back, and I don't know if we can survive it. I sink into my chair, my eyes drifting to the desk lamp that sat at the center of it all. In the harsh light of morning, it's just an ordinary object again, unremarkable and mundane, stripped of the intimate glow it cast last night. It's almost mocking in its normalcy, as if it's daring me to pretend everything is the same. I can still see the shadows it threw across the room, the way it framed a moment that changed everything. My fingers itched to turn it on, to see if it could somehow transport me back to that haze. But I know it won't. That moment is gone, and all I'm left with is the weight of its consequences. The sound of the glass doors opening pulls me from my thoughts, and I look up to see Noah and Ethan walking in. Their steps are casual, their faces composed, as if nothing out of the ordinary happened. Noah offers a small, easy smile, and I realize that despite the chaos swirling inside me, life outside continues with its own quiet resilience. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment if you enjoyed this story. This will help us create more engaging stories for you.